Very good morning, everyone, and welcome to the live lecture. So today the main agenda of the lecture is to scan any stocks, the list of stocks that you have for some indicator conditions. So for the example purpose, today we are taking SMA crossover, like SMA 5 crossing over SMA 20 on 5-minute time frame. So you will supply the list of stocks on which you want to scan, and then the condition. And if the condition, like you'll also supply the buy and sell condition as well. So if the condition gets satisfied for the buy, a buy order needs to be placed, and if a condition for the sell gets satisfied, a sell order needs to be placed. So as you all know, we'll be using the Kite Connect API for the same. So first you will have to download the Kite Connect API, go to settings, and then to the project interpreter, click on plus symbol and type Kite Connect here. So this is what we want. Then click on install package, and then it will be installed. So I have it already. So after installing, the next thing that you need to have is the API key and the API secret key. So for that you'll need to log into Kite Connect. And after logging into Kite Connect, you will be grabbing the API key and the API secret key from there, and you'll need to store it in a text file. In whichever directory your project is there, in that directory you will be storing it, the API key, API secret key, and an empty notepad needs to be made for storing the access token. So what we'll do, so this is the API that we have created on that day. So click on that API. So here when you scroll down, I have subscribed to live data as well and the historical data. So live data will be expiring within 2 days, and historical data I have one more month. So this is my API key, and when I click on show API secret, this is my secret key. So these two things, I'll copy the API key, then go to a notepad, paste it there, and save this file as API underscore key dot txt. So every time you need not open this kite dot trade and then copy these two things, API key and API secret key. So we'll do it once for all and store it inside a text file like this. So score key dot txt has my API and this has my secret. And then there is an access token. So this is a previous access token. And these access tokens, every 24 hours, they will be flushed by the exchange. So even the broker will also flush from his end. And in Upstocks, they'll be giving you access token directly, but in Zerodha, first you need to generate a request token, and from that request token, you'll be getting the access token. Let us now look at the login flow. So you have the module installed, you have the two text documents within your project directory. Now let us request for a request token. And when we get the request token, from that we can ask Zerodha to generate an access token. So I'm importing the Kite Connect module into my program now. So from Kite Connect, I need two functions here. One is for the live data, which is Kite Ticker. So right now, actually, you don't need this because we are depending on the historical data now. So historical data doesn't mean that it is of like 1 month old or 1 year old. any candle, like let's say the right now the time is 11:07:15. So until 11 o'clock, the 5-minute candle, if you consider, until 11:05, the candle will be considered as historical only. Right now, whatever LTP is there, that is only the live data. Prior to that, whatever data is there, that will be considered as historical only. In terms of any brokers or any data vendors API, historical data means whichever data is not current, that will be considered as historical data. Now, if you use this kite ticker and store the live tick data into your database, then you need not depend on this historical data. But we know storing the second by second data and then resampling that to a minute or hourly or daily data, it's a tedious task for us. We need lots and lots of memory, and we need lots and lots of computing power. So we'll need to depend on high configuration machines for the same. And at the same time, if you use the historical data API, it will be happening within a jiffy. So kite ticker is for the purpose of live data, and then we need a kite connect object. So this is the object which is going to give you the historical data. So for this object, first you will give your API key, and after that you can use it for multi-purpose thing. So one of the reasons that we are using kite connect object here is to get the historical data. So for live data, this is the module, and for historical data, we'll be depending on kite connect. And for safer side, we'll be importing pandas as well, because we'll need to calculate the indicator values here, and for the same, we'll be importing Talib. Again, indicators or candlestick patterns, if you do not want to depend on Talib, we saw some of the indicators that we coded within Python itself without depending on any external module. So that way also you can use it. So whichever modules you have written, whichever indicators you have written on your own, just put them inside one more Python file .py and just import that file into your current program. That will be enough. And I also need dates. Now, there are certain restrictions when you are getting historical data in Zerodha. Like let's say if you are depending on the 5-minute time frame, at max, it will be supplying you only the 100 days data. From today, it will go back 100 days, and that is the maximum data it can supply you. If you are requesting for hourly time frame data, then at max, it will be supplying only 365 days of data. So going forward, if it is a higher time frame, then it will be able to supply years together. But if it is a lower time frame, until 60 minutes, only 100 days data will be supplied. From 60 minutes to 240 minutes, only 365 days data will be supplied. And from daily, some years, I think. It is mentioned in their documentation. You can refer to that. So this is the limitation that we have. Now, yeah, we are importing the date time, because every time I cannot give like today's date and then subtract it by 100. So I cannot give it manually every time. So for that purpose, we'll be depending on the date and time. So this is the module. From date time, import date time once again, and date time delta. So this time delta, what I'll say is, first I'll instruct the program to take today's date. So that will be my to date. So there are two dates that you have to give to the Zerodha kite object. One is starting date and the other is ending date. So ending date will however be today only, and starting date will be today minus 100. So to tell that minus 100, you need to depend on this time delta. And the reason why we are importing datetime is to point to today. So there is a function datetime dot today that will give you current days, time and date. So this is our main program. Now let us get the API key. We'll use the file object here. Now since the API key is within this project directory itself, I need not give the relative path, it will automatically take it, and open that in read mode. Similarly, API secret key as well. And open the API secret also in the read mode. Now get a kite connect object. So to get this kite connect object, you have to supply your API key, and it accepts keyword arguments. So you have to give it in the same manner. Now, if you already have the access token, the same method you can use here, like how you have opened a file in Reddit. The same method you can use it here. So make sure that file names are proper. And if you're opening your access token text file for the first time in the day, because I told you that it is going to flush the access token every 24 hours. So for the first time in the day, you have to generate the request token, and then from that you have to get the access token and write it to your access token text file. So if you already have, let's say you are doing it for the second time in the day, you're doing it for second time, so this line is enough. But if you're opening the file for the first time today, then you have to, so after getting the access token, first set that access token, and if you're doing it for the first time, you'll need a URL. So this login URL, now let me comment it here. If you are opening the access token file for the first time in the day, then following steps are required. So you'll get a login URL from this kite connect object, and then you'll generate a session. And to generate a session, you will need to provide a request token and then your API secret key. So API secret key, we already have it. Here itself we have read, because that is a constant. API key and API secret, both of them are constant. What changes every time is this request token and then the access token. Lifetime of access token is 24 hours, and lifetime of this request token is only 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes this will get flushed. So once you get a request token, first job is to get the access token from that. Otherwise, again you will have to generate your request token. So now within this response, when a session is generated, within that response you have the access token. So if you want to print the access token, you can do it so. Now once you have the access token, just set the access token once again here. Now one, and as I told you, you have to write it to a file. So using the file operations, we'll be writing it to the access token text file. Now this time I want to open it in a write mode because I want the contents to be erased every time I open it, because I want to write a new access token to that. So I'll be opening it in a write mode this time. What do I want to write? The access token here. So new access token will be written. Now when you do it for the first time, just comment these lines. From second time onwards, these two lines are enough. But if you are opening it for the first time, then you have to comment these lines and then uncomment these lines. So access token is written. Now give the dates in between, which dates you want to get the historical data. So one is the from date and the other is to date. So just keep a note, we still don't have the access token. I'll run the program once, then I'll get the request token, and then the program flow will be the same. So I'll require two dates here. One is from date and the other is to date. So to date is simple, date time dot today, and this needs to be formatted in a year, month, and date. So what is the format here? Year will be 4 digit, then month, and then the date. This is the format that I require. So I'll use the date formatting strf time, and here I'll be specifying the date. So when I say capital Y, it will take 4 digits from the year, and when I put the small y, it will take only the last 2 digits from the year. So right now I need 4 digits, so I'll be keeping capital Y, and then the month and date. So to date is ready, and from date, so from date, current date minus 100 days. This is what I want, and that too in the format. So this is the required format for the same. So within date time, there is an inbuilt method which is strf time. So here what we have done is we have used the external method. Strf time here is not a part of this date time. It is a part of today. But now we are using the strf time, which is also there inside this date time. So to this strf time, first it accepts two arguments. One is the date and the other is the format in which you want to convert. So format, that is clear to us. This is the format I want. So that will be my second argument. And first argument will be the date itself. So what is date? I'll need to do a calculation here. First I'll need to get the current date and then subtract 100 days from that. So for that subtraction purpose, we'll be using this time delta, and to get the current date, we'll be using date time dot now. Date time dot now, it will be giving me current date and minus time delta of 100. So what it will do, it will go to 3rd July 2020, and then it will subtract 100 days from that, and the resultant figure will be your 100 days back date. And the format needs to be like this. So you got your from date and you got your to date. Next is, what is the interval that you want, the historical data interval. So I need 5-minute data. There shouldn't be a gap here. And the list of symbols. Now, as you all remember, the only disadvantage with Zerodha is that it does not accept symbol name. It accepts the tokens. In the live data also we saw that it does not accept the symbol, it accepts the tokens. Yes, there are certain functions in which, like let's say you have punched in an order, then how many number of total open orders are there, or if you want to get the LTP only of any stock, so in that case it will accept the symbol, but in certain cases it will only accept the tokens. So what is this token? Each stock, each futures contract, and each options contract, every one of them has got their own token. Let me show you that. So we'll log into Kite now, kite.zerodha. And when I open the chart in a new window, I'll be able to see the token for that particular stock. So I have Reliance here. When I click on this chart, this arrow, this is my token. So when I pass this to the Kite Connect module, Zerodha will understand that I am requesting for Reliance data. And if I pass 256265, then it will understand I am requesting for Nifty 50 spot data. And for futures and options, after an expiry gets over, the data gets erased from the exchange. So even Zerodha, in that case, any broker, discount broker or any broker who is giving you historical data API, they'll not be able to give you historical data of expired symbol. So June month contract, it got expired. You will not get the historical data of June month. Only the July month historical data you will be getting. So July month historical data means from when the expiry date of June was 25th. Now from 26th of June, the July month contract got started. So July month historical data, it starts from 26th, 26, 29, 30, 1, 2 and 3. All these days you can get it. And there are also something called as continuous futures and continuous options. So if you can get the continuous future and continuous option symbol here, that also you can use, and that will be a continuous data. So let's say this July future, from when do you have the historical data? I think 3 months, because any contract it runs parallel in 3 months. So from whenever this July contract started, from then you will be having the historical data. So somewhere around, yeah, from 4th May, you have the historical data of July future. And if you see, this has got its own token. Now when July contract gets expired and if you give this token, no data will be returned to you. So like that, you can provide options, you can provide futures and the spot data as well. So spot data, there are certain limitations depending on the time frame that you are requesting, and futures and options data, historical data of the expired contracts will not be returned. So these are the limitations as far as the historical data is concerned. So tokens, we are maintaining a dictionary right now. So the key value will be token and the value for the key will be the stock symbol itself. So for example purpose, I'll be taking Reliance and HDFC Bank. So this is my key here, and the value. This is the key for HDFC Bank, and this is the value. So this is my dictionary. It contains key value pairs, first key, first value, second key, and second value. Now I want to run a continuous loop. The reason for running a continuous loop is because every time I cannot come and I cannot press on this run button. So I want this program to run continuously, and whenever the condition gets satisfied, the order needs to be placed automatically. So within a while loop, an infinite while loop, I'll be giving my all matching conditions for the buying or for selling conditions or any screening condition I'll be giving inside a while loop. So this will always be true. And I don't want, because I'm requesting this 5-minute data, I don't want the data or I don't want the loop to run continuously. So it will run the loop continuously, but the matching and selling condition, the buying and selling conditions, the matching of that, I want them to happen only at the end of the 5-minute interval. So right now it is 11:28. So although the loop is running, I don't want to fetch the historical data right now. I want the historical data to be fetched only at 11:30 seconds. So for that, I'll be writing an outer if loop. So if the current second is 0 and if the current minute is, if you divide it by 5, the remainder should be 0. So what is the condition here? Fetch the historical data only at the end of 5 minutes. So for that, what we'll do, current second must be 0 and current minute must be fully divided by 5. That means the remainder should be 0. So give the outer if condition here. So if date time dot now. So what this date time dot now does is it will give you the current date and current time at a time. So from this, I want to extract the second. If this second is 0 and the second condition date time dot now dot minute, if I divide it by 5, so here we'll not use the divided operator, we'll be using the modulus operator because I want to check that remainder should be 0. So if I divide it by 5, the remainder should be 0. If this happens, only then fetch the historical data. Now to fetch the historical data, I don't have a single symbol here. I have multiple symbols, so I'll have to run a for loop for the same. So this is the way we run a for loop in a dictionary. The same for list also, this is the same way. So when I do this for loop, the token will be is equal to first value. So Python is, it is intelligent that it knows what type of data is this tokens. Is it a list or is it a dictionary? So when it runs a for loop, if this was a list, token will be is equal to the individual element here inside the list. And if it is a dictionary, token will be is equal to the key. And if you supply the value as well, so if you supply two values here, first one will be equal to the key, second one will be equal to the value. So Python is intelligent enough to know that. So for each token inside this list, a variable in which I can store the historical data. So kite dot historical underscore data, this is the function, and as I told, this is the disadvantage. It accepts the instrument token only, not the symbol. So to give the instrument token, just supply the token here, and then the from date, we already have it, and to date, we already have that, and give the interval. So this records has your historical data now. Now, since we want to calculate the indicator values, we have to convert that into a data frame. So we'll take the help of pandas for the same and provide records. So now DF, this contains your data frame. And this data frame is nothing but a table inside which all the historical data is there. So first column will be the index, second column will be the symbol or in the instrument token, then open, high, low, close, and volume. So this is the data frame that you have inside this DF now. Now, since you are requesting the data, so let me first show you how the data will be inside the kite. Then you will get to know what I am talking about. So this is HDFC Bank 5-minute data. Now, right now, the candle time is 11:30. So let us just wait until this candle gets over. So you have a new candle now. What is the time? 11:35. At what time are you requesting the data? At 11:35. So the latest candle data will also be included, which is not yet completed. But what we want is, we just need the OHLC values of last candle. And from there, all the historical data. I do not want the current candle data. But since I'm running the program only when 11:35 starts, it also gives me this candle's data as well, the current running candle data. So to avoid that, we can just drop the last row of the data frame. So we'll use the inbuilt method, which is drop. So here I'll just tell it, go to the tail. So there will be two things. One is tail and the other one is the head. So go to the tail, and inside the tail, go to the last index, just remove it and remove that in place. So the last row is removed, and now you have the data until 11:30. So 11:30 means what? The ending time of that candle is 11:34:59 seconds. So until that time, you have the data, and current data is starting from 11:35. So that is not required to us. So last one is removed, and now extract the open, high, low, close values from the same. Refer to the column and then extract the values. So open now has the list of open values. Then this list has the high values, low, and close. If you want volume, if your indicator value is based on volume, then you can extract the volume as well. Then we'll take the help of Talib here. So we have already imported that into our module. So first is SMA5. I want to calculate SMA5 and recall, if we recall, Talib returns a NumPy array. So it will calculate the whole 100 days, 5-minute interval, simple moving average. And we just need the last value because I want to check if a crossover happened or not. So if SMA5 crossed over SMA20, how can I calculate it? I just need the SMA value of the past last candle, which is 11:30 candle. And on that candle, if SMA5 is greater than SMA20 and a candle previous to that. So here we are checking SMA5 crossover SMA20. But this word the program does not understand. So for that, what we'll do, what is crossover? For the first time, this SMA5 needs to be greater than SMA20 for the first time. So what do I mean by first time? That means prior to this candle. So at 11:25, SMA5 should be less than SMA20, and at 11:30, when the candle gets completed, then SMA5 should be greater than SMA20. That means SMA5 now crossed over SMA20. So this is the crossover condition. Let's say cross under. So what you will do? If it is a cross under, then in the last to last candle it should be greater, and for the first time it should be less than. That means the slow fast moving average, it crossed under the slow moving average. So for this, first we'll need these values, SMA5 and SMA20. So we'll take the help of Talib now. So it accepts close list and the period, look back period. Then SMA20, then the close list and look back period is 20. Now it will calculate the simple moving average and it returns an array. So from May 4th until 3rd July, every 5 minutes it will calculate the simple moving average 5 and simple moving average 20. Every 5-minute candle it will calculate it, and it will return an array of all those values. So we'll just need to refer to the last value of this array because this is an array, NumPy array. If you index it from the rightmost corner, you will get the last value. So for that, we'll just need to give the index as -1. So if you do -1, it will start indexing from the rightmost corner. If I say 0, it will start indexing from the leftmost corner. So I'll give it as -1, and then you'll be able to see the latest value of SMA. And if you want now here for the comparison purpose, I need the last indicator value, which is at 11:30, and last to last indicator, which is 11:25. So if I do -1, I'll get the indicator value at 11:30, and if I do -2, I'll get the indicator value at 11:25. Nothing but I'm indexing from the rightmost corner. So next comes the if condition here. So I want to check the crossover. So there will be one more if condition within this for loop. So if SMA5 of -2, that means last to last value, is less than SMA20 of -2. and SMA 5 of minus 1 is greater than SMA 20 of minus 1. This is the same condition this we have written here. So this is the condition that I have written inside this if. So SMA 5 of minus 2, which is 1125 candle, that should be less than SMA 20, and in the 1130 candle that should be greater. So a crossover has happened now. So if this happens, I need to place a buy order, and for that thing I'll be taking the help of kite dot place order. So this kite dot place order, it returns me an order ID that I can store inside a variable. Now the reason for storing this order ID is because sometime after, if your order does not get hit and you want to cancel that order, you can use kite dot cancel order, and to that you have to supply your order ID. So manually, instead of doing it manually, we can store it inside a variable and then write an exit condition as well. If the order does not get hit within the 30 minutes after you punch in the order, within 30 minutes, if it does not get hit, that means that is a strong trending market. It is not coming down. So you will exit that order. For that, you will be using kite dot cancel order, and you will need to supply the order ID. So you are storing it inside a separate variable. Now this kite dot place order, see how many arguments does it accept. First is the variety. Variety means, is it a regular order or aftermarket order which happens after 3:45. So our market ends at 3:30 p.m. every day, and after 3:45 you can start placing aftermarket orders. For the next day you can start placing the order from 3:45 p.m. itself. Then what is the exchange, NSE or BSG? Then the trading symbol, then the transaction type, the quantity that you want to buy or sell here. Now in the transaction type, is it a limit order or is it a market order? Then the quantity, then the product. So product means, are you willing to do it as an intraday order, which is MIS, or it is a cash and carry? You want to carry it as a position. So either you need to use MIS or CNC here. Then the order type, and here instead of market order, if you have given it as a limit order, then you have to mention the price as well. So for that, this is the price. Then validity, good till day or good till cancel, all those things. So normally you will put it as a day. So as the day gets ended, because this is an intraday order that we want to punch in, as the day gets ended, we want the order also to be cancelled automatically. Then this is the actual quantity that you are buying and how much do you want to disclose. Then the, now here instead of a limit order, if it was a stop order, then you will need to mention the trigger price as well. And here instead of normal, the instead of the regular order, if you are using any bracket order or cover order, right now both of these are blocked in all the brokerages, bracket and cover, because of the volatility. You can only use regular as of now. But in going forward, if you are using this bracket order, you have to mention the target. Square of is nothing but the target, and it takes the uh, difference between your target and the price at which you are buying. Let's say you are buying the stock at 100 rupees and your target is 110 rupees. Then the difference between them is 10 rupees. That absolute value you have to give it here. Even the stop loss also the same. If you are buying it at 100 and you want to maintain and your stop loss is 95 rupees, then the difference between them is 5 rupees. So the absolute value must be supplied here. And the trailing stop loss, when the stock goes in your direction, at each interval you can modify your stop loss. So let me give you one example. So here you have your stop loss and trailing stop loss. Now the buying price is 100 rupees and your stop loss is 95. Then your trailing stop loss is 1 rupee. So as and when the price goes higher and higher, your stop loss will also be moved by this value. So if your stock goes to 101, your stop loss will be 96. If it goes to 102, this will be 97. Like that, your trailing stop loss will be added to your stop loss. So when the stock is in a strong trend, you're also participating in that. So this is your trailing stop loss, and if you want to use it, like if you're using the bracket order, you have to mandatorily mention that trailing stop loss as well. So these are the required arguments that you have to place. So first is the variety. So kite dot variety regular. I'm not choosing the bracket or cover or aftermarket. I'm only choosing this regular variety. Then the exchange, NSE is my exchange. Then the order type, the market order, and then the trading symbol. So I have it already inside my dictionary, and since I'm inside a for loop, I can just refer to the dictionary. So this is my dictionary, and then this is my key. The value will be returned to me. So trading symbol is equal to that, uh, the value of that key. Then the transaction type, either you want to buy or you want to sell. So since it is a crossover, I want to buy. What is the quantity? Instead of fixing it here itself, you can maintain one more variable, and then the same variable you can pass it on here. So right now for the example purpose, I'm just using as 1. Now since this is market, I need not use this price because price is already fixed. Whatever is the current market price, at that price itself my order will be hit, or if it is a limit order, I'll have to mention the price as well. Now for each stock, LTP will be different, and I cannot go inside the program every time, and manually I cannot change this limit price every time. So for that purpose, we'll take the help of kite.ltp. So when the program is inside this for loop, it has the stock name with it. So for the first occurrence of this for loop, the stock name will be Reliance. So I'll pass on this Reliance. Yeah. So for the first time, I'll pass on the Reliance. So let me take a temporary variable to store that LTP. So price is equal to kite.ltp, and to this I'll need to pass in this format. First exchange, then colon, and then the symbol. So to do this automatically, we'll concatenate two strings. This is the first string, and the second string would be the tokens dictionary. So now this will return a dictionary of dictionaries. What it will return? Dictionary of dictionaries. That will be returned to me, and from that I want to extract the LTP price. So what I'll do, price, again this one, and inside the returned dictionary, there will be one key called last price, and that key has the LTP as its value. So this is the main dictionary, and this is the key for that, and this is a dictionary inside the main dictionary, and the key name is last price. So now I have the LTP here. So for this, let us print it, then you will clearly understand why I'm writing it in this manner. So you have the LTP now, and this itself will be my limit price as well. So only when the price comes down there, the order will be hit. Now instead of a regular order, if I'm choosing bracket order, there are few more parameters that I have to define. So first is the target, which is a square of. So 10 rupees is my target, and a stop loss is around 2 rupees, and trailing stop loss is 1 rupee. So like this I can mention. Then the validity of your order, which is day. So IOC means immediate or cancel. So if your order does not get immediately fulfilled, the order will be cancelled. That is IOC. If it is a day, that means it will wait until 3:30 p.m. and after 3:30 your order will be cancelled. Then if it is good till cancel, then the order will be there until you cancel it. And the product. This is an intraday trade that I am taking. So it is a product MIS. Now after you have placed an order, you can access all of your orders at a time. You can just print it by using the function kite.orders. So whichever order you have placed in on that day, all those will be listed out to you. So this is your buy condition, and then a buy order will be placed here. And instead of this, now since we don't have bracket or cover order, we'll get an error message saying that due to higher volatility, these are blocked. You can either use MIS or day. So we'll just shift to regular only, and I want to buy it at market only. So from here, this is not required. And I also need to check for a cross under. If there is a cross under, I'll be initiating a sell order now. So 11:25 candle, what is this? 11:25 candle, the value should be greater, and 11:30 it should come down for the first time below SMA 20. Then I'll consider it as a cross under. And here only this one changes as a cell type. Rest all that will be same, and save it inside a sell order ID. So there are two if conditions inside your for loop. For each stock, it will be checking the buy and sell conditions, and if they are satisfied, the orders will be placed now. And after all these things happen, if you want to check if the orders are placed or not inside the if loop, if condition, but outside the if condition and inside the for loop, you can keep checking on if there is any order placed. So this is it. This is the program which will now scan for this SMA crossover and cross under. So since we are running it for the first time, I'll remove this if condition because it will wait until the time is 12 o'clock. So I'll remove that, and rest of the values are same. And an order will be placed now only if this criteria gets satisfied. If that does not get satisfied, it just runs the while loop continuously. So let us run this. We are running it for the first time. So all these steps needs to be followed, the login URL and all those things. So login URL is there. Just click on that URL. Since you're already logged into Kite, it will not give you the login box. So directly the request token will be given. So copy that request token until the ampersand symbol. Actually, this also you can make it automated using the request method. If you all remember, how did we download the data from NSE? We use the request method. So using that request method itself, you can get this URL, and from that you can extract the request token. That process also you can automate. So I got the request token, and within this I'm going to paste it. So now this time what it does is it will generate a session using this request token, and it will get the access token. Then the access token will be set, and it will also be written to the text file, and then the data will also be presented to you. So I'll also print the data. So first print the raw data that we got, and then print the data before the last row is removed, and then print the final data. And SMA values we are already printing it. Then LTP we are printing. So before this, before extracting the LTP, we are printing the price once. Then again I want to print the LTP, and then the if conditions and the buy orders. So it is going to run inside a continuous while loop. So we are rerunning it again. So you are getting the data now. So this order I had placed it in the morning. So that also it is giving me, and HDFC Bank and Reliance, the orders are being sent to the broker now. See here. So we'll just stop it. So this is the Reliance data. Our first stock is Reliance. So what all things is it printing? So from here it starts. From here the things start. All the historical data is returned to you in this format, list of dictionaries. So this records which we are printing, that is in the format of list of records, list of dictionaries. So that list of dictionaries, I'm converting it into a data frame, and this is the data frame. Now when I scroll down, you can clearly see that 12 o'clock candle is also being printed, but 12 o'clock candle is not yet over. So I want to remove this row. So this command, it removes the last row. And let us scroll a bit down. So 12 o'clock candle is now removed. You only have the data until 11:55. So if the candle is 11:55, that means it started at 11:55 and closed at 12 o'clock. So the closing price that you have now, 1081.5, that is of the candle which closed at 12 o'clock. So this is 12 o'clock candle. So it will close at 12:05. And this is, so this is Reliance. We are looking at HDFC Bank. So this is the candle I'm referring to. It started at 11:55 and ended at 12 o'clock. And the closing price is 1081.5. 1081.5. And the volume is 90258. 90258. 90258. So all the candles data you now have. Then you are requesting for the simple moving averages, SMA 5 and SMA 20, where you are taking the help of Talib there, and only the last values you are printing. So apply SMA. So one is 5 and the other is 20. On this candle we have to check it. 1081.03, 1080.9, 1081.03 and 1080.9. So SMA values are also intact. After printing that, I'm requesting for the last traded price of HDFC Bank. So this is the format that is returned to me. Dictionary of dictionaries. So this is first dictionary inside the dictionaries, and inside this first dictionary, this is the key, NSE colon HDFC Bank, and this complete one is the value. And inside this value, I only need this last price. So what I'll do, now this price is nothing but my dictionary, and then I'll refer to the first key. So first key is what? NSE colon HDFC Bank. So this tokens of token contains the stock name and I am concatenating it. So this becomes my key. It refers to this NSE HDFC Bank, and then this dictionary is thrown. When this dictionary is thrown, inside that again I need only the last traded price. So again I'll refer to one more key inside, which is last price. Then 1082.25, that is returned. So LTP contains 1082.25. Then if the condition gets satisfied here, if SMA, if a crossover happens, then a buy order is placed, and if a cross under happens, a sell order is placed. So if you see, there is a crossover happening here. That is the reason a buy order was placed. SMA 5 is crossing over SMA 20 for the first time at 11:55 only. That is the reason in HDFC Bank, what is the type of order that got placed? It is buy order. Now if you see, the reason these many orders got punched is because I have removed the condition that it needs to check it only at the end of 5 minutes. If I enable this condition, order will be placed once and again for the next 5 minutes. However, this condition will be false. So an order won't be placed here. Now after punching in an order, I'm also able to print all the orders that were placed. So here, this is my ID. The order is placed by me. This is the order ID. This is the exchange order, parent order. Then what is the status? It got rejected. Why did it get rejected? Because there are no sufficient funds. And this is the raw message. Margin exceeds. Required margin is 196 rupees and available is the 0. This is the timestamp at what time the order got placed. So this was the order which I punched in the morning at 9:32 because I am requesting for all the orders. So that is also again a list of dictionaries. So this is the latest order that we have traded, the HDFC Bank instrument token. And here is the order timestamp. At 12, 1 minute 34 seconds, we punched the order. So this is how you can scan the stocks for indicator conditions, or if you want to go for the candlestick patterns. Instead of the indicator, you can just request for candlestick pattern, like let's say CDL hammer. So this accepts OHLC values. So instead of this, we'll just pass open, high, low, and close. So it will give you a dictionary, it will return an NumPy array of ones and zeros. If there is a hammer on that particular candle, 1 will be returned, and if there is no hammer, 0 will be returned. And similarly, we need only the last candle. Only on the last candle we want to check if it is a hammer or not. So we'll use again this indexing from the rightmost corner. So if there is a hammer, I want to place an order. That condition you can put it inside this if block. Or else if you want to compare the LTP with the moving average. So you have the SMFI, you have the LTP. Now within if condition, you will only put if LTP is greater than SMFI, I want to buy. Or if LTP is less than SMFI, I want to sell. Similarly, instead of simple moving average, if you want RSI indicator as well, then you will take the help of RSI, pass on the close, and then the 40. So this now has the NumPy array which consists of RSI values. And if you want to check if the stock is overbought in the intraday time frame, let's say if the RSI value is greater than 90 on 5-minute time frame, if the RSI value is greater than 90, then you want to sell it. Rarely it does happen, and if it happens, definitely the stock is going to reverse. So that condition, if you want to check, even that is also possible. So here it is. When it went to 80, it rejected a bit. Similarly, here the value of RSI is around 77, and from there it got reversed. I'm not saying that you need to use it as overbought or oversold, just an example. So if RSI value is less than 20, you can go for a buy. So any indicator, any candlestick pattern, you can get it using Talib or your own Python file which has a code for it, the indicator value or the candlestick value, and then you can use it inside this live scanner. Now the same, if you want to initiate an options order for the same, instead of depending on this, if you want to initiate an options order, let's say you want to initiate an order on Nifty. So in the morning, Nifty was slightly bullish with a gap up. So it opened gap up and then it reversed back. So here, somewhere around here, when RSI was at 70, you want to buy a put option. So what you will do, The nearest strike price to this 10,600. So Nifty 10,600 put option of 9th July or of monthly, whichever it is. So I'm choosing 9th July, and this is the token for the same. So you will copy the token, and if you have the token inside, so this is your token, and how is it written? This is the value of the same. So these things are mandatory. Now here, instead of NSE, it will be NFO. Rest all things are same. At market price or at any price you want to buy, that you can do, or you want to sell that option, instead of buy you'll be putting as sell. Now we know that the risk framework that got changed with NSE. So all these spread strategies that we have seen. So here, what is the best idea to initiate the Nifty? Since there is a gap up and the price got reversed from here, the best strategy would be bear call spread. So you will be selling one in the money call option and you will be buying one out of the money call option. So for that thing, what you'll need to do is, first you will need to initiate a buy order and then a sell order. So if it is a bear call spread, first initiate a buy order and then a sell order. Only then the exchange will get to know that you are initiating a spread order and it has to reduce the margin. The quantity should be 75 in terms of lot. And as I told, if you are initiating any spread strategies, earlier these spread strategies, they have one buying leg and they have one selling leg. So this selling leg, you had to deposit hefty margin earlier. Now that got changed. The same bear call spread, earlier the margin required was somewhere around 1.5 to 2 lakhs. Now it is close to 40,000. So margin is heavily reduced now. But to inform the exchange that you are going to initiate a spread strategy, every time you have to initiate the buy order only first. Let's say you want to initiate a butterfly. So what is a butterfly? It is a short straddle plus OTM buy call plus OTM buy put. So what is short straddle? Sell ATM call plus sell at the money put, and then these two. You will buy out of the money call and out of the money put. Now to tell the exchange that you have four legs and you need a margin benefit, first initiate the buy orders. So first you will do out of the money call buying, immediately initiate at the money call selling, then immediately OTM put option buying, and then selling of the put option. Then the exchange will understand that you are initiating a butterfly strategy, and accordingly the margin will be adjusted. And by mistake, if you initiate the sell order first, definitely the margin needs to be deposited. So to get the benefit of margin, you have to initiate the buy orders first and then the corresponding sell orders. So you are buying the call option here, then the corresponding sell order should be for call option only, not a put option then. So sequence must be maintained. So everyone understood what we discussed today? how the conditions are being checked and how the orders are being initiated using Zerodha. Now the historical data API, it's not mandatory. As I told, if you are maintaining the database of tick data, that will also do. Yeah, and this historical data, it also has one more argument, which is open interest. So this historical data, open interest is also there, and you want a continuous future or a normal future, or a continuous option contract or a normal option contract. So I searched for their continuous contracts, but on the terminal I am not able to find. But if I'm able to find, I'll let you know how to access them. In other platforms I'm able to access, but in Zerodha I was not able to do so. So if it is a continuous future contract or of only the current month, or if it is a continuous option contract or of only current month, then do you want open interest data as well in the historical data or not? So by default they are set to false, the keyword argument. If you want the open interest data, you can use it like this. Then the open interest data will also be returned to you, so that you can check at that particular strike price if the OI is high or not. So if that OI is high, you will take the opposite direction. So call option OI is highest, then you will be on the sell side. Put option OI is highest, you will be on the buy side. So this is it. Let me know if you all have understood it. It depends on your strategy, Vijayendra ji. So if your strategy is based on tick level data, then that needs to be stored. Breaking the streaming data into Candle, the data that you get is not in the format of the Candle data. It only gives you the LTP. So what you can do is only the closing price you will be able to get then. Like the if condition that we have used here, you can use the same if condition, but only the minute closing data you will be getting. The high, low, and opening, those will be lost. So it is always better to depend on their historical data API only, because you can use any high configuration machine and all those headache you can remove it. The resampling, and then so you're giving more and more tasks to your program. In the live market, you cannot keep on shifting from one function to other, one function to other. Then they are depending on the database, all those things we cannot do it. As a professional algo trader, we should not do it. How much ever flexible you can be, that much flexibility is needed. Right. Okay, then this is what I wanted to teach you. Thank you all for joining. If any more concept comes to my mind and if I want to share it, I'll definitely intimate you prior to that, and then we'll have a live webinar like how we had it. Thank you all for joining.